Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum
Waalaikum
assalam.
salam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Let's make a start. Today's ayah is a little bit shorter. I'm hoping that I can answer some of your questions. Just catch up with the questions, inshallah. There was one from yesterday which I wanted to tackle first before moving on to the next ayah. So yesterday we saw, let me just bring it up for you. So we had, and Sister Salma was asking about the movement from the sin to the ra in the first. So أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. When we say وَأَسِرُّوا قَوْلَكُمْ, this is a little bit more challenging than saying a standard ra. If a ra had a different letter before it, it would have been, for example, if it had a fatha before it or a dhamma before it, it would have been easier. This one is a little bit more challenging. And if you find that your ra that you're joining, because both, there's two ra's here. You got the ra that you're joining with the sin, وَأَسِرُّ, and then you have the one with the dhamma when you say ru. So there's two ra's essentially that you're pronouncing here. What you want to be doing is, sometimes we can say the heavy ra, but we struggle to do that first one that's joint when we say وَأَسِرُّ, that one. What you want, if you're finding that difficult, then what you need to be doing first is practicing to say the joining ra, and to practice it with the kasra is going to be a bit more difficult for you. So the best way to do it is first say a word that has got a heavy letter before it, like the word ghar. Okay, because what you're doing here is you say the ghain with a heavy letter. It's a heavy letter, so you pronounce it heavy. It's an isti'ala letter. It's in hussa daghdin qidh. And then you're already pronouncing, you're already in a heavy position. So when you try to then join the ra with it, it will be easier. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, so what you're doing is you're saying ghar. That should make it easier for you to say the ra, because you're already, your tongue is already positioned in a heavy position. The only thing you're doing now is putting the tongue up for the ra. Ghar. When you can say that comfortably, and you can say, and you can keep saying it repetitively, and making the ra heavy each time. Ghar, ghar. When you can do that, then try removing the, and try saying it like this. Okay, ar, ar, ar. Try to say it like that. And then the next step is then to introduce the kasra and say it with a, let me do that again. Normally the hamza is written at the bottom and it's a kasra. So you say, then you try ir, making it heavy, ir. And once you can do that, then put it back and add it with the sin. Sir, wa-asirru. Okay, so those are like the steps that I want you to take. You won't get it straight away. It's something that you'll have to work on. But first try to say the word ghar, try to make the ra heavy, then say ar. When you say ar is an important step, because what you're doing is you're removing the elongation of gha. You're just trying to move a bit more quickly now, which is what you want when you're moving from the sin to the ra. So try that, inshallah. I hope that's helpful. I hope that's answered your question. Wallahu a'lam. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is our new ayah today. Just clear the screen. So this is our new ayah. Inshallah, the next, I know there are two other questions, the ghain and the rakhawa letters. Inshallah, we'll tackle that today whilst we're reciting this. When we finish reciting this ayah, and the rakhawa letters during the recitation, inshallah. So we'll start off with the isti'adha, just for the sake of practice. I have already said it at the beginning, but we will say it just to allow the sisters to practice and allow all of you at home to also recite with me. Sister Auntie Nasreen, if you can recite the isti'adha, please. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
What you're doing, Auntie, is when you're saying billahi and when you're saying ash-shaytanir rajim, the joining, when you're saying billahi, your voice stops. You're saying billahi because you're making the lam shidda. You're cutting the sound off, right? You want to complete the tawassut to keep it going a bit. Billah, billahi, billahi. Try that again.
Billahi.
That's better. Now we'll also try the same for when we say ash-shaytan. When we say nir rajim, we don't want to say nir rajim. Keep it running. Nir rajim. Ash-shaytan nir rajim.
Ash-shaytanir rajim.
Let's try that one more time. Ash-shaytan nir rajim.
Ash-shaytanir rajim.
It's better. I want you to do a little bit more. Nirra, nirra. So as soon as you finish the joining ra, go straight to the fatha. Ash-shaytanir rajim.
Ash-shaytan. Sorry. Ash-shaytanir rajim.
That's better. Jazakumullahu khairan. Papa Juksana, if you can say the Bismillah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Just that last ra, I think because you were running out of breath and the very last one was made light. We'll do it again. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Sister Radiya, we're going to try this ayah, the whole ayah, inshallah, together, because I think we can manage it. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف Sorry, let me start again. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
Okay, Jazakumullahu khairan. So a couple of things, inshallah. I will explain this ayah. Sister Rati, just be careful of your lams here and here. The first one was very nice. When he said Allah, I want to hear that same light lam when you say wa huwalla. You were making the lams heavy, so they sounded wa huwallah, like that. Huwalla. We want to keep it nice and light. And also just be careful with the two memes here. So pronounce them both separately. Give them both the due time, one count each. But inshallah, I'll give you another opportunity to recite. I just want to do the breakdown first, inshallah. So we have here the word Allah, Allah. So again, very relaxed. You'll notice the lam here is double the time because it's got this alif after it. So this one will be 2 counts. So you start with a 1 count. You have to be careful here. Often sisters will say Allah, Allah. So the ah becomes the same amount of time as the la. You don't want to do that. You don't want to say Allah. It's Allah, Allah. You see, the first hamza has to stay as 1. Then we have the word ya'lamu. Now the ain here is a tawassut letter. It's another one like lam. When you join them, you don't spend too long on them, but you don't cut them short. You don't say ya'lamu, ya'lamu, ya'lamu. You stay on it for a little bit. And at the same time, you don't make it too long and say ya'lamu too long. Okay. So coming back to now, what's going on? I think we're ready to get a little bit more of a detailed explanation of what is all this timing about. You know, we're talking about shidda, tawassut, and rakhawa. So shidda letters, okay, shidda are letters that basically they are letters that when they have a sukoon on them, when we're joining them, it's all to do with the sound of your voice, and it means that you have to cut the sound of your voice quite quickly. The letters that do that, we put them in a phrase, ajidu, qatin, bakat. Okay, these are the letters. So in other words, hamza, jim, dal, qaf, ta, ba, kaf, and ta. These are the letters that when you have to join them, your voice cuts off quickly. Okay, the sound of your voice doesn't keep going. Okay, so for example, if we have the word that we saw in ayah number 1, we saw the word tafawut. It was tafawutin. But if we were stopping here, so we put a sukoon, we pronounced it with sukoon. Okay, we said min tafawut, right? When you say would, what's happening? Would, the sound's disappearing very quickly. It's actually very difficult to keep it running anyway, if you're, because your tongue touches the top, you block the sound. So that's why the sound gets cut off. You say would, and then after you hear a little bit of air, would, okay? Tafawut. Okay, but that's your example of your shidda. So for all of these letters, you're cutting the sound off. Even, for example, when I say, if I said khalaq, for example, if I was stopping on the word khalaq, then again, you'll notice the qaf. When I say khalaq, see the sound just cuts off. I have a bounce, but the bounce is not to do with the carrying on of the sound, the running of the sound. But the sound cuts off first, then the bounce comes later. Khalaq. See, the sound stops. Then we had the letters of tawassut, which we've heard quite a few times now. This is like your the lam that we've been discussing. The letters that do this are called, we put them in a phrase, lin umar. I better make that a little bit more clearer, shouldn't I? The raza looks more like a, yeah, let me remove that. If I can, hang on. Sorry, there we go. So this is Lin Umar, Lam, Noon, Ain, Mim, and Ra. So whenever we see these, we've seen this, we don't cut the sound off so quickly. So for example, when we have the word here, Al-Khabir is your example. Al-Khabir. Here we say, for the Lam, we don't say Al-Khabir. If we say Al-Khabir, then that's the Shidda, which is what we don't want, because it's not Shidda, it's the wasl. We stay on it a bit. Al-Khabir, Al-Khabir. At the same time, it's not too long. We don't say Al-Khabir. Okay, it's not too long. And then the last one are the Rakhawa letters. Okay, and these letters are, now there's not a phrase for these letters, it's all the remaining letters. Okay, it's everything else. So it's not the letters of ajidu qatin bakat, it's not the letters of lin umar, it's any others that are left over, like the sin and the za, okay, and the dal and the dha. There's quite a lot of them. So all the remaining letters are your ones that you spend time on. So for example, your sin, when you say as-samawat, right? The sin, when we join it, we say as, we keep it running, as-samawat, as-samawat. Okay, so I hope that answers the question, inshallah, for Sister Zainab, I think it was, who was asking about which ones are the Rakhawa letters. Inshallah, that's given you more than enough information there, alhamdulillah, to have a think about, inshallah. Okay, so coming back to our ayah now. I should have just kept that there. Just keep it there. Right, coming back to our ayah. So we have Ya'lamu. Ain is one of the tawassut letters, so we stay on it for a bit. Ya'lamu, Ya'lamu. Okay, we stay on it. We don't say Ya'lamu, and we don't say Ya'lamu. Ya'lamu, something in between. We have a noon here followed by the letter kha. This is your idhar halqi. For those of you that know, for this one, there is no merging, there is no hiding of the noon. The noon is pronounced clearly. And noon, as you can see, is a lin umar letter. It's a one which is tawassut. So again, we stay on it. We say it clearly. Man. Just how we say ya'lamu, man, ya. Those two letters are both held the same because they're both tawassut. So we say man khalaqa, right? So we say the noon and then move on to the kha. The kha and the qaf are both heavy letters, and the one in the middle is light. Kha, la, qa, kha, la, qa. Okay, so you want to make the kha and the qaf heavy. You don't want to try to make the lam too light. Sometimes people say khalaqa, la. They change it into a la because they're trying to overcompensate. Try to keep it as a normal la. Like we say lam, fatha la, khala, khalaqa. Okay. Then we have wa, huwa. Again here, give each letter one count. Wa, hu, wa. The waw is then joined with the lam. The joining lam again, the tawassut. وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ. Okay, the ta here is a very heavy letter. It's got the itbaq. So we can't say huwa allati. Ti becomes very light. It's going to be ti. The trapping sound, trying to keep the sound in your mouth. وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ. And then the lam also again. وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. The kha again is heavy. وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. And the ra we saw yesterday here. The ra has a dhamma, but we're not reading the dhamma. We're saying al-khabir. We're pronouncing it with a sukoon. Because we are pronouncing with a sukoon, we have to check the letter before. The ya has nothing on it, so we assume it's another sukoon. We then go to the letter ba, which has a kasra. And remember, we said kasra means you make the ra light. Okay, so that's why we are pronouncing the ra light here. Al-khabir. Okay, it's quite the way to avoid making it heavy here is when you say al-khabi. Now, when you say al-khabi, the back of the tongue is already down. It's not heavy. It's not. You're not making a heavy sound. You're already saying something which is light. Al-khabi. So all you then want to do is bring up the tip of the tongue only. You should feel only the tip of the tongue moving up for the ra. Al-khabir. Al-khabir. Okay. Sister Radia, let's try this again. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
Okay, let's try that again. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
Much better, Sister Radia. Much better. You fixed your lams as well, which is very good. MashaAllah. Allah bless you. Just be careful of the dhamma on the fa. I want to hear a clear fu. وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ.
وهو اللطيف الخبير.
So what you should see is your lips for the fa, fu. So when you say the fu and your lips sort of round for the u sound, keep that. So you say وهو اللطيف وهو اللطيف الخبير.
وهو اللطيف الخبير.
Allah bless you, Sister Radia. Much better. Well done. Alhamdulillah. Okay, because we do have time, alhamdulillah, I am gonna go around and pick a few of the other sisters to also recite and have a go at this ayah. So Sister Humaira, if I can listen to you next, please. Okay, so I'll say it again and then you can repeat after me. And everybody at home also, I hope that you have been reciting after me as well. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
Try to do that smooth movement from the lam to the kha when you say al-khabir. We'll try that again. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
You're also saying al-latiful, full, right? I want to hear full, that same movement. وهو اللطيف الخبير.
وهو اللطيف الخبير.
And after you say the fu, you have to come all the way back to a slight smile for the lam. Okay? So when you say al-latif Al-Latif right, so you have to come back. Go on.
اللطيف الخبير.
Yeah, the lam's better. The dhamma is still a little bit weak. I'm still
Okay.
hearing like a foo. So remember, finish hear yourself say the oo. Fool, then go back. وهو اللطيف الخبير.
وهو اللطيف الخبير.
It's better. Keep working on that, inshallah. That's probably something you need to work on. Just making sure that the dhamma is clear and then the lam is also light afterwards. Jazakumullahu khairan. Onto Nasreen?
Yeah.
Okay. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
Well done. That was good effort, mashallah. The ta was good. I could hear the itbaq, mashallah. Your heavy letters like the kha, like the qa, and also the kha here can be heavier still, auntie. So remember about your direction of your voice. Let's see if we can make them a little heavier. But just be mindful of this lam in the middle of khalaqa. We just want to make sure that stays, that doesn't become heavy too. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
Better. Try خلق.
خلق.
That's better. جزاكم الله خيرا. And finally, Professor Kusana. We'll try this again. So let me just clear this up a bit. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
Okay, so for you, Papaji, what I want to do is I want you to squeeze a little bit more for the ayn, just to make sure we hear a clear ayn here. And I think it was the khalaqa. Let's recite it again, inshallah, and see what else there is. ألا يعلم sorry, I'll do it again. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
So Papaji, you have to be careful of this meme, not to make it too long. So we don't want to say ya'lamu man, muma, keep moving. The lam here, I also want light. Khala, not khala.
Yes.
Khalaqa. So when you say the lam, just bring your lips out just a little bit, not too much. Khalaqa. And just try to make your kha here a bit more heavier. Let's try that again. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير.
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 So remember the sound of your voice a bit more up.
Yeah.
الخبير.
الخبير.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Okay, so alhamdulillah, we've managed to say this ayah quite a few number of times, alhamdulillah. So I hope everybody's had a good practice with this even at home. Remember, we do have the recording, so if you do need to practice again, just go back and you can access the recording and then practice again that way. Okay. Finally, what I wanted to do was I wanted to do the last question, which is the makhraj of letter ghain. This was a question, I can't remember who sent this. I think it was Sister Halima, I'm not sure. She wanted to discuss the makhraj of letter ghain. So I'm going to share, actually, let me discuss it with you first. Okay, so letter ghain is a letter that shares its articulation point or its makhraj with letter kha. Okay, kha and ghain come together. They are They are both letters that come from the middle of the throat. Sorry, from the top of the throat. Okay, I always remember they both have a dot at the top, which means they come from the top of the throat. Now, the question is, how do you know where the top of the throat is? Okay, if you have, for example, the top of the throat, I'm not an artist. Okay, you have the top of the throat here. The next letter that's pronounced after the very top of the throat is up here, is the letter qaf. Okay, which means if you know where qaf is, you know that if you go a little bit lower, that is where your ha comes from, your ha and your ghain. Okay, so qaf, if you feel where your tongue is going for the qaf, qa, 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 you know you have to go lower. Okay, so you're not using, so what you'll find is now your tongue at the back is not being raised. It's not going up to pronounce this letter. It's going actually backwards. You're using for the ghain, you're using the root of your tongue, so the very back of your tongue. And instead of it going higher, you're pushing it backwards. And the reason you push it backwards is because for example, if your tongue is now, I hope this makes sense, because as I said, I'm not very good at drawing. But if this is your tongue, for example, so you use this part for the qaf, you want to use this region and push it back. Okay, when you push it backwards, this area at the top of the throat is squeezed, and it's that squeezing that you want for the ghain. So you want the very back of your tongue, the furthest back you can get, and you're pushing it, so sliding it more backwards to squeeze the back. Oh, L. We also said that the ghain is where you gargle. Okay, so if this hasn't made sense, then gargling is another way that you can, when you put salty water and you put it in your mouth and you go, oh, that is also the makhraj where the ghain is. Okay, if you want to take it a step further, if the ghain, you still are kind of struggling with that, then you can actually, there is a difference between the ha and the ghain, and I'm going to show you that on the image. Okay, can you all see the image?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So you'll see here, this is showing you the makhraj of the letter ha and the letter ghain. So we have the ha on this side and we have the ghain on this side. So you'll notice that the ha is here, okay, but the ghain seems to be a bit lower than the ha. So they're both in a very similar region, but when you say ha and gha, you notice that you very slightly, you move a little bit lower for the ghain. Okay, you move very, and that's why they're so close, these two letters in their makhraj, that we often just put them together and say they're both from the top of the throat. Okay, because there is only a small difference in there where you are pronouncing them from. The other thing I wanted to mention here was another tip is if you again struggle or you want to differentiate between the makharij of these two letters, you want to be precise, then they normally say that if you gargle with warm water, then the furthest back you can go gargling with warm water is the place where the letter ha is produced. Okay, if you then gargle with room temperature water, then you'll notice that you'll be able to take the water a little bit further back, and you'll be taking that back to the makhraj of letter ghain. So that's something, if you want to get a little bit more precise and you want to really find a distinction between the two, you can try that. What else makes these letters sound different? Let's come back. What else makes these letters sound different? The other thing that makes these letters sound different is that the ha is an airy letter. You hear your breath with it. Okay, so you hear you hear your breath. Okay, with the ghain, you do not really hear your breath, but you hear your voice a lot more. Okay, you hear L. Now, when you squeeze the back, when the very root of your tongue pushes back, you don't close the throat off. Okay, so some people will pronounce it as ga, for example. And that could be because, I mean, there's a couple of reasons why they could be saying that, but one of those reasons is because they're pushing back so much, they're closing off the throat. So they're saying ga. You can see, you can almost hear it in my voice. I've blocked it and then I'm letting go ga. So that would be wrong. What you want to do is you want to keep the throat a little bit open. So you say okay, you leave it a little bit open. At no point do you completely block it off. Okay. I hope that's answered your question. I hope that's helped, inshallah, with the makhraj of letter ghain. Again, some of these letters, which are, especially when they are not, they are not in the language, they're not native to us, they're not in our native tongue. There may be strange letters that are quite foreign to us. Then it can take time. So be patient with yourself and just keep trying, and you will get there, inshallah. All right. Anyway, time to end there, inshallah. Let's move on and get some inspiration and boost our iman also with the tafsir. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.